Hi everyone, Harmony in the Highest here, and I wanted to come on this morning just because I'm wanting to make sure that I produce a video every day so I can get used to speaking and I can get more comfortable because there's so much that I want to share with you guys that God has put on my heart to share, and I just know that I'm definitely being called to share the gospel and everything and sometimes I just don't know where to start. So my goal is to just create content every day until I get to where I'm comfortable um, just speaking forth any messages and yeah, just establishing that. So this morning I wanted to talk on um, how I was just sort of reprimanded a bit by the Lord for things that sometimes that you know we might deem as small things but are actually really big to the Lord. And I want to talk about, like, I'll say five things that we may not think are big deals, or like they're excusable things that we might do on our walk with Christ, but that the Lord really takes seriously and will correct us for. Um, I was listening to a deliverance minister this morning. If you guys know Chantel Akabe, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I love her, and I love her. Like, I love how devoted she is to her ministry and how she comes every morning and is so devoted in prayer for each of us, anyone that God puts on her heart. And today, I felt like she was kind of speaking directly to me about certain things like that I've been falling into recently. And one is fear. So fear's been a big one for me on my walk because I've seen like evidence from the enemy side, like that, of different things to be afraid of. I've had different things happen that caused me to really like be afraid. So it's not to say that the fear isn't valid. Um, as like when, at the height of when I was going through like some really like tough trials, I was in Fleming Island, and which is near Jacksonville in Florida. And this was like a time when I was really like going through a lot. Like the enemy was really trying to get me in a place of fear. I had moved there all on my own, from the prompting of like the Holy Spirit. I was just kind of like out there like on a whim, and I was being brave. I was trying to like follow the path that God had set for me. And it took a lot of courage and boldness, and but at the same time I was out there by myself and alone, and in what it felt like a sea of uh the enemy was, the sea of the enemy's camp was like around me, in the form of like Masons, and their family members, like wives and daughters. Um, but that's for another video. But yeah, so but on in that journey, I had gotten into like two car accidents back to back, where I hadn't gotten into any car accidents in 10 years prior to that. Because I am a safe driver. I am a defensive driver. I leave a lot of room between me and the car in front of me. I never speed. Like, even when I might be in a hurry, I don't speed. I definitely don't tailgate. I can't stand when people tailgate. And I have gotten so much of that in the gang stalking that I've received, that it's something that I despise. I despise people that tailgate. Like, more than you could have any idea. but um but that's just all to say that, like, was a pretty safe driver. I am still a pretty safe driver, and they were just making it so hard for me to like navigate that I ended up getting in. Plus, I felt curses landing on my car for the first time when I had moved out there. I didn't really know what that was, to feel curses landing on your car, until I had moved to Fleming Island. And then I definitely got a taste of what that was, of what witchcraft really could do to like a car that you're driving, like, just showing that how much the spirit impacts, like matter impacts our lives here. So it was quite scary. It was back to back. I'll just tell the story. Like the first car accident was it was sort of an accident because I was at a four-way stop, but it was a complicating one because there's a median in the middle. It wasn't just like four ways, there was a median in the middle. So you had to cross the median, and I was going straight through. I was going from this end, and I had to cross one lane, then there's a median here, and I had to go straight um, into the shopping center. So I was crossing two lanes of traffic basically. And I did the first one fine, but I think for some reason I'm not used to doing like I'm not used to going straight like that through like four-way stops. And so it just I don't know threw me off. I felt like the person coming in the lane like this way towards me as I would say I'm going straight through, right? From here to here. The person coming down this side, um, like the person coming down this side as I'm crossing to my next, like crossover, um, I thought that they had a stop sign and they didn't. So they came as I was crossing, they came really hard and came smashing into me really hard and like so hard that it totaled my car. Like I spun a little bit and it completely totaled my car. And I'm lucky that I didn't have a scratch and I felt fine and I didn't feel any like pains or anything in my neck after that. So like thank God for that. But what was crazy was a person who like got out, like this woman, she was like so mad and she's like yelling at me when like she was the one who came like barreling into me. But I understand like her shock and everything. It's just it was just a crazy thing to experience. But what was like crazy was that as I was in the midst of this like accident, I'm sitting there waiting for the police to arrive and stuff, and the woman was behind me. I look over to my left side and I saw this building that said that the name on the sign was By Your Side. And like in that moment, I knew that like Christ was with me. Like I knew that like I wasn't alone, and he was with me, and he wasn't gonna like leave me, and it gave me like so much like hope, and it quieted my mind, like because there was other things that were causing me to like panic at that time, and I just was feeling really like vulnerable. And I think the woman that hit me could feel that, like she felt that too, and she was like, she even asked me like what church I went to, and like invited me to her church because I think she was feeling like my vulnerability, um, and she probably also felt like Christ with me, but that was just such a like moment. I don't know, like where I could have been really afraid, but because I felt Christ was there with me, like it really like settled my heart and I knew everything was going to be okay. And I just prayed and I just I just prayed to God and and it was beautiful, and she ended up asking me like what church I went to and like even inviting me to her church. So that was pretty cool. But then then literally right after that, connected to that accident, I was on my way taking my car because it was still drivable. It's just the whole front, like it needed so much like work on the front that it ended up being called like totaled. Um, but as I was driving it to the insurance inspector, like at Geico, I had to cross a bridge to get there, and I was nervous about crossing this bridge. Like it did definitely made me nervous. But I had checked the roof, like the front part of my um, like not coming up, not thinking of my words this morning, but my hood of my car. I had checked it before I left the house, and it seemed secure. But as I was going over the bridge, I felt this car over here, this demonic car over here. Like they did something to my car, like I think put a curse on it, like or something. But I don't know what happened. I felt that happening, and then suddenly my um, hood of my car just flung up, like while in the middle of this huge bridge. I was right about in the middle of this bridge, and my hood of my car like flew up, and of course smashed the glass. So I had to like carefully get. I don't even know how I got over, but I got over to the right lane. I got over to the shoulder of the bridge, and thank God it had a shoulder. Um, but thank God like that happened. And thank God for shoulders on bridges. Like I can't even, after that happening, I don't think I'll ever go across a bridge that doesn't have a shoulder to pull over on, because that is just so like dangerous. Like that's just like, that's, yeah, the worst thing. And then luckily, like the Florida Transportation Department came up behind me, and I felt that this man had like a spirit of like Christ on him. Like he had this like sort of like angelic presence, and I felt like safe. Like he came over and he's like, let's get you like off the bridge. And he towed me off the bridge and everything. And so thank God for him, and thank God for like the Florida Department of Transportation, the FDOT people. Like they were like right there when I needed them. And I also did feel the presence of Christ, and I was like praying all throughout that. And he led me to safety. But it was just, and it definitely, like, in those moments it really deepens your connection to God. Like you're relying so heavily on him to get you through. So that was really like powerful in those moments. Um, so it was a powerful way to like increase my faith, but it was also at the same time instilling like fear in me that hadn't been there before. And sort of like, I think it's lingered with me. Like it really shook me up, because it wasn't just one accident, it was two. And the second one was like literally I was on a bridge and my hood like flipped up. That's, one of the worst things. So I, needless to say, that really like shook me up and made me like afraid. Like I was even afraid of like driving for a little while, because it wasn't just that. It was when I would be driving, I felt like I was so in the spirit that these curses were like landing on me from the different like masons around me and stuff. And I there were times where I had to call my mom in the middle of my driving and like um get courage, because I would be praying my way through, and I would be like canceling different stuff that was landing on me, and it was really scary. So like, yeah, so now that I think back, like I definitely had a reason to start developing like this fear of even driving, which I had never been afraid of before. um so that just tells you the power of like the spirit. um so I'm still kind of, I'm still kind of, I've worked through a lot of it, but I'm still working through like some of it.